Now to a session that drew a great deal of interest this year, the state of the field of U.S.-Arab relations.
We talked a lot about oil. One of the panelists, Bob Vitalis, had lots of comments in terms of how we understand how America defines its interest in oil and whether or not we should accept those definitions or question them and think more critically about them. We talked some about the Arab-Israeli conflict. We talked about modernization and U.S. efforts to try to, or scholarly efforts to try to place U.S. modernization initiatives into a broader global perspective and accepting and looking critically at Arab perspectives on those issues as well. Also talked about American identity and how the Middle East has played a central role in helping to define American identity at critical points in U.S. history. And so I think it was a great panel, and we had lots of good feedback from the audience. It was exhilarating.
One of the key themes, I think, in the panel and both the scholarship is this tendency to try to overturn U.S. exceptionalism and some of the politics involved in that, and how are some of the new ways in which we can go about doing that. New actors, new trends, new processes, new frames, whether it's global, local, transnational, what have you, different, non-state actors, state actors, etc.
I really want people to take away that this is an exciting field, that it doesn't just have to be defined by the current issues of conflict and terrorism and post 9/11 stuff, that there are lots of other ways that we can think about it. And so that would be the biggest thing, and for people to think that this is an engaging topic to work on.
The thing that is pleasantly surprising for me is some of the excellent scholarship that people are currently working on, which were hinted at sporadically throughout each presentation, and particularly the various topics that are just totally outside people's scope, and how rich they can be, not only in terms of scholarship, but also into bringing into the classroom. When we start talking about, American popular novels in the 1970s and their portrayals of Arabs or Arab Americans after 9/11, and so on and so forth. I think the field of U.S.-Arab relations is doing tremendous things. However, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, and there's a general acknowledgement of that, both in terms of topics, but also approaches and addressing new issues.
I think there's a lot of good work that's been done. There's a lot of good work left to be done. The points I tried to make are that we've tended to focus our attention on certain countries, certain cases, that there's a lot more left out there to do. There's also a lot in terms of thinking about the global aspects and trying to think more transnationally about it. And there's a tremendous amount to be done on using Arab sources and bringing them into the discussion of U.S.-Middle East relations, not just doing it from a U.S. perspective.